Hello, Global Theater. My name is Gerry Fialka. Today's Feb 28, 2026. I want to thank Rob Grant and his amazing podcast, I'm Probably Wrong About Everything. Also want to thank USC's film series for enabling me to meet today's guest, Nancy Sue Pearlman, in line for a great film screening. Nancy, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you here at the Fialka Funny Farm. Thank you so much.
It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to hit this here, and I'm going to go sit in my spot and ask you, the first question is, what is the best thing for a human being?
The best thing for a human being is to be healthy, alive, care about the world, be active, do what we can to make this the best planet on Earth and save every single wildlife species on the planet and every wild ecosystem.
That is a load, and I love it. I agree with all those. What's your favorite form of information, how it comes into you?
We have to be able to absorb information from absolutely every place. Books, of course, are well-researched, have excellent information. Films, where we met at a screening, provide a different perspective. The internet, of course, now we have an instant encyclopedia available to us to find out information. Organizations, their newsletters, their publications, and of course now podcasts and other forms of audio and visual media, from radio to television. I've done 2,500 radio shows, wow. The longest running environmental radio show in the country since 1977. 2,500 shows, a new show every week on the environment. And I've done 600 TV documentaries on the environment and 3 Emmy nominations. And I believe that people can share information. They can listen now while they're driving, hands-free, of course, be safe. And they can listen while they're doing something else because of the computer. They don't have to listen live. Yeah. There's so many ways to gather information. But people, good sources. It's important to talk to good people who have good information.
Direct experience with others. Yeah,
absolutely.
Because is that little red thing moving good? Okay, up there. Okay,
there's good. A little live
the red is
movement.
Okay. So let's go to books for a second. Did you become a reader, 1, because your parents told you to, 2, they did as example, or 3 on your own?
I became a reader because my parents read.
Yeah.
I am now sorting out and giving away 3,000 books in their library on every topic imaginable. I'm trying to find the proper homes. So if people want to contact me and they like a particular book, whether or not it's drama or politics or art or music or novels, biographies, you name it, they read.
Yeah.
I did have difficulty reading when I was younger because I am still a word-for-word reader. And that means I'm a slow reader. I read books word for word. And so I couldn't easily get through books. However, obviously in college, we had to read books, we had to read articles. And now I am thoroughly enjoying reading books for authors that I interview on my radio show because their experiences and their knowledge and what they're sharing is absolutely fantastic. And it takes me time, but I read word for word. And so I think I'm motivated to read because the books are out there, the experts are out there, and there's so much information that we need to know about.
Why do you think humans collect or gather information?
Humans have always been curious.
Yeah.
Humans have always shared before the written word. People shared through song. They shared through storytelling. We just have another medium to be able to do it. And I do want to mention one book that changed my life in 1968.
Yeah.
I was in college. I took a biology class and I read Dr. Paul Ehrlich's Population Bomb.
Great.
And it's still a valuable resource. And that made me an environmentalist, realizing that our planet is overpopulated.
Yeah.
The carrying capacity of our planet is about 2 billion people, and we have over 8 billion people. Everybody could be healthy, receive medicine, health care, education, have jobs, not be in poverty, have food, resources, if we had a smaller population, because we have limited resources on this planet.
You got that right.
And we don't want to mandate population control. It should be voluntary, but we need to provide it. We need to provide the family planning. We need to provide health resources to women. And when women are educated and they have those resources, they are not going to have many, many, many children, because the children will live. They're being taken care of, and they will have them when in their older age if their society doesn't provide any kind of social security.
You're answering a ton of questions upcoming, so it's really good. You're anticipating the whole discussion topics. Is this need or want to collect information more innate or more invented?
More innate or more invented? I think it's internal, because every society has always had their children taught by the parents how to find food, how to do their art, how to carry on their cultural or religious faith beliefs. So it's innate in being a human being.
Yeah. Okay. So now, do thoughts create emotions?
I have to always repeat your question, it seems.
That's all right.
So just make it register. Do thoughts create emotions? I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I don't know where our thoughts come from. Obviously, when we have thoughts, we have emotions because of them.
Yeah.
When I think of something, I feel emotionally involved. It affects me making my decisions. So I definitely think it makes a difference.
Yeah, some of these earlier questions are, is it more this or more that? Of course, it's both, and it depends. But it's more like your hunch or your guess. That's what I'm after. If you don't feel like you're qualified, because the next one is fill in the blank. I don't know what I think until I
don't know what I think until I think it.
Until I think it. I get that answer sometimes. Joan Didion says, I don't know what I think until I write it. McLuhan said, I don't know what I think until I say it. Can humans think without language?
The language is in our head, whatever language that may be, whatever language we've learned to think in. I took an anthropology class in 9th grade.
Yeah. Wow.
I said, I'm going to be an anthropologist. And I have taught anthropology at the community college level. I've taught cultural anthropology, physical anthropology, all aspects of anthropology. And it fascinates me how cultures react to their environment, react to other people in their society, how they form political, social structures, how they form different faith beliefs, how they react to their environment. People respond to what they are surrounded with.
Oh, yeah.
We are sitting here. I'm sitting in your living room. All of this is yours, not mine. And it shows me what you think about, what you care about. If you came to my home, you would see all my tchotchkes and items that I've collected from traveling to 70 countries in the world. You'd have to look at my closets to see my 150 folk costumes, because I specialized in ethnic dance.
Right.
So all the costumes are in the closets unless I'm wearing them. But we collect items that have some sort of meaning to us, to remind us of some experience, where we've been, what we've done, how we can relate to other people. And I find most fascinating that when I travel to other countries, I've done documentaries in over 35 countries, and many more. I find what's interesting, because I can't really learn another language. I try to learn hello, thank you, a couple of words.
Yeah.
But I can learn the dances. And wherever I am, I'm dancing with the local people.
Yeah.
And they're surprised that I can pick up their dance and dance with them. And I always try and pick up their traditional outfit, and I'm wearing it out of appreciation, not appropriation. And they love that, because that's the way we're expressing ourselves to each other, through dance. Now, some people can do it through language. Some people have the ability to learn multiple languages. I commend them. I struggled to learn English. I had to go to a speech therapist and a voice therapist to just be able to speak English.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing.
Well, this is beautiful because you anticipated the next question, but I want to ask it anyways, because Chomsky says language is not just words. It's a culture, a tradition, a unification of community, a whole history that creates what a community is. Nancy, what do you do when language doesn't work? When language breaks down, what do you do?
Language in terms of speech, but there's always the language of the body.
Yeah.
There's always the language of relationship.
Yeah.
And doing things with people.
Yeah.
I've been in strangers' homes where I can't cook, but they're cooking, but I'm going into their kitchen and they're showing me things. That's a language.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's cooking, whether or not it's music, whether or not it's dance,
Yeah.
whether or not it's art, you're sharing. You don't need the verbal language.
You know, it's funny because there's a cliche I love and you kind of encapsulated it. If you can't say it, sing it. If you can't sing it, dance it.
Well, I would change that. I would dance first. I don't like my singing.
Yeah. So your observations of humans in general, are we more thinking beings or more feeling beings?
We're both.
Yeah.
I mean, it's being human. That is part of being human. And as a wildlife activist to save wildlife, and I know many other anthropologists and primatologists and other wildlife experts, biologists, they all see that other animals also communicate. They're communicating to their young. They're communicating to their fellow members of their community. In fact, I'm heading in June to Indonesia to go with a friend who I've known for decades, who was the first scientist 50 years ago to teach wild orangutan sign language.
Oh, wow.
And he's been trying to save the orangutan. Of course, the tropical forests in Sumatra and Borneo are being torn down and cut down, and the orangutan are very threatened. I've also had my mentor, I say she was my mentor, and not to me personally, but my idol in terms of her accomplishments as an anthropologist, as a peace ambassador, was Jane Goodall.
Oh, yeah.
And she's been on my radio show. She's been on my television show. And when she studied the chimpanzees in Africa, she came up with unique discoveries that said, these are not just animals. They're using tools, which when I was an anthropologist, humans were considered the only tool maker. Well, that's proven false. Right. And so you have Berede Galdicas also studying, and Gary Shapiro studying the orangutan. You have many different people studying all these other animals. And they show that animals are thinking, caring to their species and to other species. I mean, we have domesticated animals. I can tell my cat, I rescued her when she was 7 years old. It took her 2 years to stop hiding under the bed in the closet. But now she's on my bed and on my lap. Oh, nice. And so she finally felt comfortable after being rescued and finally adapted. You have to have patience, but she's showing me affection and I show her affection.
There you go. Beautiful.
So it can be interspecies.
Yeah. So these are two from Alan Turing in the 50s. One is thinking a function of the soul.
Well, we have the soul, and it's all different. I've always found it fascinating as an anthropologist. I still question to this day why we have so many different belief systems, because our soul somehow demands our communication to a spiritual life. I personally am a pantheist. I recommend that people go to pantheist.net. Doesn't mean polytheism. That's not many gods. Pantheism is basically all is one and nature is sacred.
There you go.
That's what pantheism is.
That's pretty good. So the second Turing question is, can machines think?
Well, I've been listening to some of the discussions and arguments and reading articles about AI, and there is a concern about how they're going to think and not listen to their creators. That's a whole nother ballgame, how our technology works.
We'll see.
I hope that humans maintain some control, but of course, humans are not always perfect either. We're fighting wars all over the world. We are not behaving as well as we could. We need a little peace in this world.
We need a lot of peace. That's
we
good.
We need to accept each other.
Well, do you more pursue happiness or more pursue meaning?
Meaning.
Yeah.
I find happiness is doing something meaningful.
Yeah.
I am giving away collections to people who want them. That's meaningful to me, that somebody can appreciate. I have an orphanage in Kenya that I support, and I just bought 85 school uniforms for them so they could go to school, and land for a school to build a classroom, so they wouldn't have to walk miles to go get an education. And I collect donated items, and it's a pain to store all this donated stuff until we can find people to buy space in the containers so we can put the donated stuff around and afford to send it to Kenya.
Wow.
And that's what we do. And giving that way is meaningful, because even though I first identify as an environmentalist, I identify as a humanitarian. Wow. And when I see people in need, and I've done a documentary about the Goshen K Orphanage. You can go to the YouTube channel that we have. My TV show is called Eco News with Nancy Pearlman. The radio show is Environmental Directions with Nancy Pearlman. I don't have all my shows on there, just selected shows, because it would overwhelm the YouTube channel. Maybe someday. And I publicize our stations rather than the YouTube. But maybe with subscribers in your show, we'll start publicizing that. But the point that I'm making is that it feels good to give and to help. And so that is happiness.
That is beautiful. But I love how you suss that out. Does the brain more detect consciousness or create it? Like, is consciousness there bubbling away? Are we more so detecting it or more so creating it?
Consciousness is there. We have it.
Yeah.
And you can tell when people get sick and they lose it. That's sad.
Yeah.
And I hope that I will be healthy and be able to have my brain together. My nonprofit organization, Educational Communications, was founded in 1958. I started them in environmental work in 1972 when I founded the Ecology Center of Southern California. The president of our organization founded it. They created a documentary in 1960. They received an Oscar nomination for their documentary. We left the president, still had his brains together until he died last year at 102.
Yeah.
And that's so important that you stay active and you stay involved, even if maybe your physical body doesn't allow you to. But you know what? I'm trying to keep my physical body healthy, because in 1980, I became number 5 in the world in the 50 miler. Wow. I was going for a world record. I wanted to be number 1 in the world, but I broke the tradition of eating always the same the night before. I ate something I shouldn't have had. I had food poisoning. So I won the race. I became number 5 in the world, but I didn't break the world record.
Wow. Well,
and I do remind myself that I was a world-class athlete so that I can continue to jog. You probably can walk faster than I can jog now, but just being out there, and it lets the mind flow when you're out jogging. I can't sit and meditate. I have to be moving.
That's
and
beautiful.
I also did the Western States 100 miler. Now that's a tough race. 21,000 feet up and down the mountain from Sun Valley to Auburn, 34 hours. That's not easy. 100 miles.
Congratulations, you're a trooper.
I was ranked in the top 100 marathoners in the country. That was a short distance, marathons, 26.2 miles. Well, but the problem was in the 80s, we filmed the top 100 women marathoners, filmed the old 1932 Olympic course, because we wanted to use the film to advocate for women's marathon in the Olympics, and we succeeded. In '84 was the first women's marathon when the Olympics was in Los Angeles.
Oh, cool.
The problem is I could have qualified for half the countries in the world and been in the Olympics. I couldn't beat the top 3 in the United States.
Wow.
But then I had to go country shopping, and that was a problem, because when you go country shopping, well, do I believe in the politics? Do I want to live in that country? There are all sorts. I met the vice president of Suriname. He says, yeah, we'll make you a Surinamese, marry my security guard. I thought you had to marry for love. You know, maybe I should have divorced. I don't know. There's all sorts of possibilities. You know, St. Kitts and Nevis, they said, I met with a minister and he says, oh, just buy a condo there. But, you know, I already had my home here. So it's not such an easy task.
Yeah, you anticipate all the upcoming questions. You have ESP. What's faster, speed of light or speed of thought?
I have no idea. Ask a scientist. You know, those are questions for somebody doing all that technical research.
So Audre Lorde, the poet, said you can't dismantle the master's house using the master's tools. Her colleague Yvonne Rainer, who's a dancer, said, oh, you can if you expose the tools. What new tool do you suggest? And it doesn't have to be tangible.
Tool for what?
Well, that's your answer. You're answering the question with the question. So you win. That's what this series is all about, inventing new questions. Basically, I open some of these questions with cute quotes. It doesn't mean you have to apply them. You put the question in the context you want. So I'm basically asking, what tool do you most gravitate towards? And it doesn't have to be new.
Well, we use tools for whatever we're doing. I mean, obviously, tools just to clean house and take care of the yard. Those are tools, but tools in terms of our activities. In the old days, when I organized a march on Mulholland back in the early '71, when we tried to create a Santa Monica Mountains National Park, and we organized the march. We didn't have the internet. We did it by stuff the envelope, put out mailers. I had mimeograph in my garage until the
but I would
90s.
Say what you're saying is your main tool is organized.
Your tool is organized, talking to people, getting people together, to have one volunteer talk to another volunteer, communicate. Now, of course, email is cheap and easier, and there's all the new social media, but still the one-on-one, you still need to show up at rallies. You still need to show up at events. You still need to make the personal contact. It's not good enough just to be on a computer.
A specialist told me we had 7 mil at the last No Kings March. If we get 3 more mil, 10 mil, the next March 28th, it will make a huge impact. I'm like, that's a good goal. Call people up and say, get out there and show your
what I've never quite understood is how some other countries will get millions of people out to protest. In this country, where we have over 325 million people, we're looking at a few million people at a protest. No, we need to have 100 million people out to protest. I mean, what's going on in this country? I am appalled by the current administration. We have a criminal crazy man in the White House, and the first 6 months I typed up 8 pages of what he and his supporters and administration has done to destroy environmental protections, women's rights, health, education. There's not a single issue that doesn't affect it. I'm writing the next 8 pages for the last 6 months of last year, because people need to know you can't be a single issue person.
That's right.
You have to look at the total picture. And we worked so hard. I worked in the 70s and 80s. We got the National Environmental Policy Act, the California Environmental Policy Act, the Clean Air Act, the Clean Water Act. All these have been dismantled by the current. We don't need regulations if the companies did the right job. But if they're not doing the right job, that's what society and government's all about. We have to regulate them to say, no, you shouldn't be polluting. You shouldn't be creating that toxic substance. You shouldn't be putting that in our water and our land. We have to take the action. That's what regulation's about. If it's not going to be done by the individuals or the companies.
You're a trooper. That's beautifully well put. Now, The follow-up is I asked people what tool they most gravitate towards. Then someone said, well, what about a toy? So what's a toy you gravitate towards?
Everybody has their own favorite toy.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be tangible. What's a playful toy that you gravitate towards? Anything?
I like the feel of my cat.
That's good. Petting your cat. Okay.
I don't like to think of my cat as a toy, though.
Right.
It's a living being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's playful. Okay.
But I have stuffed toys for my great nieces and nephews. When they come, I have a whole
stuffed
section of living room where they can pick a toy each time. And it's always interesting. And when I give talks, I've given ecotourism talks because I really promote the importance of travel with a purpose, travel for conservation.
Travel with a purpose.
And I always believe in my environmental talks, ecotourism talks, I take my stuffed toys to remind me of the story, from whether or not it's my stuffed orangutan, whether or not it's my stuffed bear, because the poor bears are just suffering from climate change. And my stuffed animals, I guess.
Okay. So now, what do you worry about when you go to bed at night?
I worry about what I'm going to finish tomorrow when I don't have the time to do everything that needs to be done. There's so much that needs to be done.
Yeah.
There's so much that we need to be working on. And I worry that there's not enough time in the day and enough energy. And I don't have the money to hire everybody I want to. I'm running a volunteer organization. And where are the funds going to come from? And how is it going to get done? And how are you going to mobilize people? I worry constantly about deadlines.
So McLuhan learned from a poet that artists are the antenna of the race. They're broadcasting and detecting the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, so we might learn how to cope with what we don't like about our inventions. So I'll ask you the question Marshall probed his whole career. Why do we ignore the hidden psychic effects of our inventions, even though the artists are broadcasting them to us?
Indeed, most artists have a meaning behind their art.
Yeah.
There's a purpose behind their art. But also people who are activists like myself, I enjoy hearing them talk about what's going on and the meaning behind what gets them to try and save a species, save an area, what motivates them to do something. And I think we need to pay attention to who's speaking.
There you go. But I'm saying even normal people or highbrow artists, intellectuals, sometimes everybody kind of misses the hidden of what the art's really saying. Sometimes artists doesn't even know that they're saying something a little deeper. Why do humans ignore the hidden on the messages to art sometimes?
Why do they ignore people like me who are constantly speaking out and saying, get active, write your letter to your politicians, do something.
Right.
I have been running for political office since early 1990s.
Bravo.
I won in 2001. I was in office for 4 terms, 16 years.
Yeah.
And I ran because people always said, well, if you don't like what's going on, why don't you do something? I said, well, one way I can do it is I'm a good policymaker. I'm an educator. I'll run for, and I'm still running for trustee LA Community College District because they spent $1 million to kick me out of office because the people with the money said, we'll support you if you vote the way we tell you to. And I said, no, I'm not your puppet. I vote for what is right. And when I was in office, I voted for what was right. I understand construction. I was the only one who knew what LEEDs was in 2001. So when we got $9 billion to be spent on 9 college campuses to rebuild, I wanted it to all be done sustainably. I knew what LEEDs was. I pushed for that because I was in office. That's what I pushed for. And so I understand that. And the other people don't. You know, they're just want the career and the publicity, whatever they want. But I still have a lot of work to do. That's why I'm running again, because I don't want them to get away with that. And I saw a construction company that was doing such poor construction, because I understand construction. I mean, I can look and see, you know, this is bad. I voted them to be unable to work with the district, which basically put them out of office if you can't work for the LA Community College District. They sued the district, but they sued me and 4 other people individually for $40 million. Yeah, I had to spend in trial for 1 week to say, no, I voted against you because you were doing bad work.
So the suit didn't go through.
Well, they finally settled. It took 10 years.
Wow.
They didn't want to settle for 10 years. And they finally, once we went to trial, they heard what I had to say. And I think that made a difference.
Wow. Way to go. Nancy, do artists have moral obligation? Is it going?
Everybody has a moral
Yeah,
obligation.
there you go.
Not just artists.
Yeah.
Everybody has a moral obligation to do something right, to be ethical. My parents taught me to be moral and ethical.
Yeah.
They broke the barrier.
Yeah.
Not the biracial barrier, but the ethnic barrier.
Yeah.
They broke the religious barrier because they had both been raised religiously, one Jewish, one Christian. They'd given that up, became secular or agnostic.
Right.
And they still believed in the basic principles of being good.
Yes.
And that's what they taught me.
Boy,
and they could use their upbringing, their teachings, regardless of what their teachings was. But the end purpose was do the right thing.
Are you more afraid of new ideas or more afraid of old ideas?
Well, what's an old idea? What's a new idea? I mean, we still read some of the ancient Greek, Roman texts. I mean, those are old ideas. We read from the past.
Yeah.
They motivate us. We read from the current.
Yeah.
So the ideas are relevant. Some ideas we can throw away.
Yeah.
And when you have crazy people writing some documents and trying to be dictators.
Can you conjure up your earliest memory ever, or one of them?
My earliest memory?
Yeah. One of your earliest memories.
Well, of course.
Well, just describe it briefly.
Well, my parents, my dad was from Brooklyn, New York. My mother was from West Virginia.
Yeah.
World War II, they met because Dad was a urologic surgeon. He was at the Army Hospital in Huntington. They met because there's not much happening in Huntington, West Virginia. You might remember that movie about in the 80s with Marshall University team that all died in a plane crash, you know. So they went to Marshall and took a Spanish class. Spaniard who taught it says, oh, you should date. 3 months later, they got married. But Dad got a job in Orange County, Santa Ana. He was the second urologist in Orange County. And the street that I grew up on was, I called it the World War II street. All the people after World War II built these little homes.
Yeah.
And it was a dead end street. And we played in orange groves and walnut groves.
Oh, nice.
And I remember we always had to call the parents to come rescue us when we got stuck in the mud.
Oh, wow. Is memory more a curse or more a blessing?
We have to have memories.
Yeah.
Memories, it's a curse if you don't like the memory. If you like the memory, it's a blessing.
Blessing. Tell me someone within your immediate family who had an impact on you, and what specifically was the impact?
Well, my parents
Okay,
had
like,
the greatest
you mainly
impact.
get from your mom, and what you mainly get from your dad?
My dad was the public individual.
Yeah.
He was world-class doctor's doctor, chair of the urologic committee of the American Medical Association, of the International Medical Association. My mother was the power behind the scenes.
Wow.
She did all the business, all the paperwork, all the reports and research and that my dad did, but he was the public speaker. She supported. My mother supported me in my environmental work.
Wow.
I didn't understand graphics when I've been doing a newsletter for my organization for since 1972. She had helped me proof it, read it. She went back to college to get her master's when I was in college. She was a genealogist of genealogists.
Wow.
She's published 12 years, 1,200 pages of her side of the mother's side of the family. Then she did 1,200 pages of my dad's side of the family. She started her dad's side. If you connect to her, a genealogist came to her, and if you connect to one of those family lines, we're related.
Because she
did it.
Both of them.
But both of them gave me different. My mother didn't like to do the public front. My dad was, but my mother did all the work and taught me all the resources. From, I could type 90 words a minute before I took a typing class in 8th grade.
Well, you really paint a picture of both of them. So
but I never told people when I was in college and was an activist in organizations in the 70s and 80s and 90s. Never told them I could type, because they wanted me to be secretary. I want to be the president or the vice president of the committee. I didn't want to be there taking notes. I want to be the policy maker.
You got some good DNA and some good nature and nurture from them. They really painted a great picture of them. Now, same question, Nancy, outside your immediate family, someone who had an impact on you, and what was the impact?
The people who had an impact on me were my fellow activists. That I mentioned, some who were very successful in their own life. But I worked with activists who were still friends. For example, in the 70s, we tried to get an initiative passed to save the Stanislaus River outside of Yosemite. It was a wild river, and the new Malones Dam was proposed to be built there. And we tried to put an initiative on the ballot, and I had people camping out overnight in my ecology center to try and get signatures for it. It was one of those problems, though. You had to vote yes to say no to the dam, and so I think the voters didn't understand that how it worked. It got complicated. But one of my first river trip, and I've been on rivers all over the world, from the U.S. to Nepal, and you name it. I've traveled rivers. One of my first river trip was on the Stanislaus, and Mark Dubois, who founded Friends of the River, he actually chained himself to a boulder in the river to stop, and he didn't tell anybody where he was. And the powers to be, the government who was proposing the dam, knew that he was really down there chained, and if they flooded it, they would kill him. And eventually the Friends found him and found the key and unchained him. But it's that kind of commitment and that kind of individual that I have treasured being a friend all these years. We are still fighting for rivers. No river should be dammed. You
got some great influences there. Now, did your parents raise you a particular religion?
They raised me as a good agnostic.
Do you pray?
No.
If God,
I don't see what praying is if you don't believe in a specific god or gods or goddesses.
But let's say,
I believe that we have to feel for the environment, nature. That's why, as a pantheist, all nature is one. Nature is sacred. I'm out. I have to go out every day and walk in it, hike in it, jog in it, be connected to it. Now, if you call that praying, then I guess I am praying.
There you go. Well,
it's a matter of how you determine the word. I am more worried about now. I'm here now. This is where I am effective. Hopefully, because I've done good work. If there's an afterlife, hopefully I'll be in the good one.
Well, see, again, you anticipate it. If God does exist, what would you like God to say to you after you die?
I don't know. I'll be dead. I'll find out when I die.
Do evil people exist, or does evil use people as a vehicle?
Now you're getting into some religious philosophical questions, and that's not my life.
Okay, but here's the follow-up as I think you can tackle. How do you advise someone to deal with an enemy? And I'll set it up. Here's 4 modern thinkers. Alan Watts says, if you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them. Coppola stole from the Mob and the Samurai, keep your friends close and your enemies closer. JFK said, forgive your enemy, but don't forget their name. And Fellini says, I need an enemy. So it's a lot of thoughts. The basic question is, how do you advise someone to deal with an enemy, say your friend's being bullied or whatever? But how would you respond to Alan Watts? If you acknowledge your enemy, you empower them.
We have friends, we have enemies.
Yeah.
We have to recognize that they exist. Personally, I am not someone who can forgive somebody who's done me wrong. And we, in my family, have been done wrong by our government. And I don't forgive those people.
Yeah.
I don't forgive people who haven't been good, haven't been decent. Why should I forgive them?
Yeah.
They are who they are. I wish they would change.
Yeah.
I try to tell them they need to be better.
Yeah.
But I'd like to be around friends and good people.
That's good, because here's the follow-up. As Nassim Taleb said, games were created to give non-heroes the illusion of winning. In real life, we don't know who wins or loses, but we can tell who a hero is. Gregory Bateson, anthropologist, great thinker, said, if the criminal gets caught, does he go, whoa, my criminal skills weren't up to snuff? Or does he go, I did something morally and socially wrong? So again, it's a lot of prompts. The basic question is, does punishment work?
I wish we could rehab everybody.
Rehab instead of punishment.
Punishment doesn't seem to work. It is something that you're referring to individuals.
Yeah.
I think in a broader sense, why individuals are criminal, why individuals do bad things, I don't understand. That's a whole nother philosophical, whole nother area for people involved in understanding psychology, human thinking. That's not my expertise. But what I am concerned about and what I don't understand are the governmental enemies to our environment.
Right.
Why
that's a no-brainer.
Do countries, and we have over 200 of them on this planet, why are they not all taking action to stop climate change, global warming, ecosystem destruction, wildlife extinction, 5 to 10 species a day becoming extinct? To me, those governments, those policymakers are the enemy. And I don't think highly of them, because I wish they would change.
Well, they're blinded, and your mission is to enlighten them.
They would become enlightened. But they don't always want to listen to people like me. That's the problem, but they need to. Or we need to get people like me, environmentalists, elected so we can do what needs to be done. You know, I told you about my sustainability. I got the biggest sustainability project in the country established at the LA Community College District. I wanted total renewable energy on all 9 college campuses. And the district covers 34 cities, which is half the county of Los Angeles, all the way from San Fernando Valley to the Palos Verdes Peninsula, Beverly Hills, Culver City, LA, Southgate, East, Burbank, you name it. You know, the most popular parking place on the campuses is under the solar panels. Covers 2 purposes.
Good.
Energy and shade for people's cars.
People got enlightened. So you know, Rachel Carson wrote Silent Spring in 1962. About 10 years later, Maria Gimbutas, an archaeologist, was trying to prove, through the anthropology world too, that there were societies that didn't have warfare. Most people are brainwashed that we're more hardwired for violence and fighting than we are for cooperation. She was saying we're more hardwired for cooperating. She spawned Rianne Eisler's Chalice and the Blade, and she called it partnership. Any thoughts on that? Are we equally hardwired for like violence and that kind of conflict resolution, or are we more hardwired for cooperation?
I have to read research studies to see what they're finding out about where we're hardwired or where we're not. But I'll tell you something about Rachel Carson. And Silent Spring. And of course, The Sea Around Us, which she wrote before the Silent Spring. I listened to it just a few years ago again, after reading it decades ago, You can listen to it on audio tape.
Yeah.
Get it from the library. Free books on tape. And everything that was said in there is still relevant today.
Oh,
in
yeah.
terms of the pesticides, the animals. I
Yes.
remember my activism. So I coordinated the first Earth Day in Southern California in 1970.
Beautiful.
And what motivated me? We had an oil spill in Santa Barbara in 1969. And we had DDT creating a problem for the pelicans not being able to, their eggs were too soft to be able to survive because of the pesticide and pollution. So you had somebody raising the alarm, but there was an excellent PBS documentary about Rachel Carson that I really recommend people listen to and watch, because it showed how she was attacked, not just for what she was saying, but because it was being said by a woman.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I remember one of the very first hearings that I went to in the LA County Supervisors in the 70s. And they said, well, they don't need to hear from me because they heard from my husband. I said, I've got my own opinion. And I kept my own name. My name was my name I grew up with. I didn't take his name. And I changed the law in 1973. So in California, so a woman, when she got married, didn't have to go to court like I did and pay $70 to keep her own name. And the Attorney General, I got him to rule that you could keep your own name when you got married. You can take whatever name you want now. But I became a hardcore feminist in the 70s because I was not being treated equally for my opinion, my actions, my work. We were being ignored, and we still are. And when you have somebody who was a scientist, who was a good writer like Rachel Carson, being ignored because she was a female,
Yeah.
this is appalling, and it's still going on.
Oh, yeah.
And so this brings up the whole issue of how we need to work together on multiple issues, from sexism to racism to speciesism. All of it is interconnected. We have to find the rights for everybody.
It's really well put. James Joyce was the first projectionist in Dublin 100 years ago, Volta Cinema. He basically checked out. He said, this is stupid. Why should I go inside a building and see a movie of a tree when I can go outside and see a real tree? Years later, Faulkner said, sometimes the best fiction is more true than journalism. Why do we have to recreate things in order to get them? Why do we have to go to a theatrical play of people acting out life? Why don't we just live life?
Well, we can live life, but we can see it to give us more thought, to more creative. And I'll tell you, being in the media with my documentaries, it makes a difference. Not all of us can travel.
Yeah.
There are places I have that I want to go that I've never been able to go to and might never be able to go to. And I remember in the 70s meeting a very famous oceanographer, Jacques Cousteau, and having dinner with him. And he created films about the ocean before people thought, oh, the ocean's endless. We can fish it. We can throw garbage in it. We can do whatever we want. And now we realize how precious and endangered the ocean is and all the life in the ocean is. But without his films, people wouldn't know. And then you have somebody like David Brower with the Sierra Club, who created the coffee format picture book. And he realized we had to take pictures of places that people hadn't seen and would not be able to see. When they wanted to dam the Colorado in the Grand Canyon, one of the most spectacular natural historic places in the entire world, he put an ad in the New York Times saying, would you flood the Sistine Chapel? And that was to relate. We've got the Sistine Chapel in nature in the Grand Canyon, and they wanted to flood it. And of course, they flooded above the Grand Canyon National Park on the Green River, and of course below. But it's the image. I mean, John Muir didn't have the films. He wrote the articles. He wrote the books and saved Yosemite unfortunately, he was very depressed that he couldn't save Hetch Hetchy. Hetch Hetchy
Wow.
was as beautiful as Yosemite, but they
Wow.
damned Hetch Hetchy. And so if you really understand what's gone on in the world, and then we have, of course, everybody knows about how in the 1800s, the Westerners from the East Coast going to California just shot all the buffalo, and the buffalo almost disappeared.
Yeah.
And without the articles, without the stories, without some of those pictures, we would never know these stories. And the important thing is we should be reintroducing animals like the wild horses, which are threatened. The Bureau of Land Management is still rounding up wild horses and killing them, yet they belong on our land. What horses evolved in North America, and they went across the Bering Straits to Asia, to Europe, and then came back with the Spaniards to North America. But there's still some wild horse bands
in America,
and they are being threatened with being killed. But the buffalo and the wild horses are adapted to the environment, to the plains, to the prairies. The cattle from Europe aren't, and the cattle destroyed the plains and the wild species of plants. But if you have the animals that evolved with the wild species, would have healthy plains, would have healthy prairies. So we need to be reintroducing the species that were traditionally here, not the introduced domesticated species from elsewhere.
You really took that on a great tangent, because that's called pattern recognition. You study the patterns and then you get comprehensive awareness. You know the big picture, Nancy.
Well, I hope that I want to give out my website of my nonprofit organization, Educational Communications. It's ecoprojects.org, ECOPROJECTS.org. Has all my contact information, all the information you'll read about our ecological projects, our humanitarian projects, our ecotourism projects, conservation work, and then if you want ecological resources and services, which my nonprofit can't promote, but people I like, I put on a new website I started called ecoview.info, ECOVIEW.info. And of course, I've mentioned that I'm an ethnic dancer. And if you want to see what kind of ethnic dancing we do, we're available for private parties, assisted living, libraries, schools, you name it. Go to earthcultures.org.
Great, because I wanted to stay on film for a second, because that's where we met, in the film setting. And I was curious, you do so much. Where was the tipping point to pursue being a documentarian? Were you studying it in high school or college?
Heavens, no.
Where did that
I studied anthropology. I took a ninth grade anthropology class.
Right, but I mean, would it kick over? Like, I'm going to start using film. Did you start in film or video?
No, neither.
Oh.
I started as an activist with paper.
Yeah.
I started writing and speaking to try and get action. Right. And so in the 70s, there was something called the Fairness Document.
Yes.
And radio stations had to have people on all sides to speak.
Yeah.
And they needed females. So I was out speaking about the environment. And then one station, which was originally K West, became K Magic and was Power 106, which I was on for 17 years.
Yeah.
Major number one commercial station in the country when they stopped all public affairs programming. They asked me, do I want to do a public affairs program? And I said, well, sure. I have more control if I'm not just the guest on a show, but I have my own show and can invite people on the show. So I started doing my radio show in 1977.
Yeah.
Well, a friend of mine who helped me with the Ecology Center, a young man, he says he was working for a PBS station in town, and he wanted to direct. He was the top technician. And they said, oh, no, we need you. You know, you can't produce, direct. So he started volunteering for us to direct and make my radio show a TV show. So Eco News. So he did all the technical. I know how to do the interviews and produce. Right. I don't know anything about all the technical, but I did learn how to use 3/4 tape and beta, because that's what we used before the computer.
You on your documentary
of course, yes. Oh. And then because I was very active in trying to say, we Santa Monica Mountains, we didn't create a national park, but we created the National Recreation Area. I did the first documentary about that. And my first show in Spanish was there. I did English and Spanish because of the market here. And then I did another documentary, Wind Energy from the 90s and Beyond. It was the first documentary about wind energy in 1993 in the country. And then I did one on overpopulation in the United States. And the problem with the overpopulation documentary was that it's easy to show overpopulation in other countries where they're poor, they're starving, they're bad conditions. You show Beverly Hills and people with all the consumerism. That's overpopulation, how they consume. It doesn't look so bad. Everybody wants to do that. Yeah. So that was a hard challenge. But I also interviewed the father of human ecology, Dr. Garrett Hardin.
Yeah.
And there's a Garrett Hardin Society. In fact, I have somebody from Europe who just wrote to me. I don't know if he's Austrian or Italian. I get Europeans. He wrote to me and said, we want to use a clip from him because he wrote something called The Tragedy of the Commons. Very short little article that I recommend everybody read. And what was that? In Boston, they had a public park they called the Commons. Yep. And in the old days, people would all graze their sheep. Well, if everybody grazed their sheep, then the commons would disappear. So the tragedy is if everybody does it, you're not going to have any commons left. So you actually had to regulate the number of sheep to be grazed. And so that article and that concept is still valid today.
That is amazing.
Those are the kind of people I enjoy doing my programs because I meet these incredible people who are doing incredible work, have done incredible work, are still doing incredible work. And
it's collaboration.
The stories are constant in terms of what needs to be done and what should be being done.
But making 60 docs or more than
600.
That. Oh, sorry, 600 documentaries. Lots of documentaries and radio shows. But let's stay on documentaries for a second. A screenwriting teacher told me great art is when you can clearly see the intention of the maker. Stanley Kubrick says great art is when you can clearly not see the intention of the maker. What role does intention play in your creative process making a documentary?
I'm the old school documentarian who wants to tell the story and wants to make it clear.
Yeah.
I've seen a lot of new documentaries where they don't even tell you where they are. I just saw one the other day and I recognized it because I've done my research and know it was in Chile in the desert where they have the best telescopes because it's the clearest place in the world to see the night sky because nobody's living there. And they just had donkeys walking all over it and didn't have any narration. I mean, okay, somebody wanted us to imagine something. I like to have the story told. I like people to know the information from beginning to end and be given that information and have that story told. I think it's much more valuable and much more interesting.
Because Duchamp said there's no art without an audience. How much are you thinking of your viewer when you're making your film?
All the time.
Yeah.
Because you want it to be understood.
Yeah.
You want what they're seeing to have an impact.
Yeah.
You want them to appreciate, to identify, to learn, and be entertained at the same time.
McLuhan said everything we invent extends some humanness, like a human sensorium. Knife and fork extends our teeth. Shutter in a camera extends our eyelid. And maybe even religion or philosophy, non-tangible, extends consciousness. What does the moving image camera, video camera extend for you? What humanness?
Stills are wonderful. The moving camera shows action and gives you a sense of space in a different way.
Yeah. I talked with Michael Apted. He did, 28 and Up and a lot of documentaries over 40 years ago. And he says, why do rock video editors feel so obliged to edit fast? And most people don't know Abel Gance invented rapid montage in 1922, but it flourished in the 80s with MTV to the point where Marty Scorsese said, I cut my films faster because of MTV. Michael Apted said, because we've learned to take in information faster. I asked this question with a bias. Can we literally learn to take in information faster, or are we just brainwashed to believe we can?
I don't think we can take it faster.
Yeah.
I personally do not like this flash. I want to see the image. I
Yeah.
want to see it. I want it to register. And they call me old school, but I think it's more valuable for us to appreciate and enjoy than flashing. You don't know really what's going on.
Is it literally possible to multitask?
Of course not. except when I'm jogging or running,
Yeah.
I let my mind flow.
Yeah.
And I don't have headphones on because I've got to watch out for the cars these days. Every day I see people running stop signs and yellow lights and red lights. You have to watch out for yourself. And I don't have music. I want to look at the plants and the yards and the people, and I run to let my mind flow. And I come up with my creative ideas. I come up with what am I going to do? How do I want to do this? When you let your mind flow. Now, some people might call that meditation. I do it when I'm running with the, I think they call them endorphins or something like that. Get going. And I remember when I was training 12 miles a day, it took me 6 miles before I could really start feeling that runner's high.
What do you think the motive of the cave artist was?
Well, same as now.
What?
To share their feelings, share what they saw, share with other people what they believe. Anthropologically, there's lots of theories. How are we ever going to know? They're not alive.
Yeah, I'm just asking.
The theories are there. The theories are it's a religious belief, or I will tell you that sometimes they have other purposes. I did in my first documentary that was run by all the PBS stations in the country on the Santa Monica Mountains. I was the first to document the winter solstice site up in the Santa Susana Mountains. It's on the old Rockadine facility.
Yeah.
And in the cave are circular circles, cave arts. And only on the winter solstice does the light come right to, not the center, because they didn't believe in the center, but to the second line. A replica of that was for a while at the observatory. I don't know if it's still there or not.
Wow,
or
that's
at
beautiful.
the Southwest Museum. But why mark the winter solstice? Why mark the change of the year?
Yeah.
Because even ancient civilizations knew when the shortest day of the year is and the new day and the new year begins.
Beautiful.
And so they marked that with that drawing and the light through the canyon. So you have people doing cave art for many different reasons.
Of course, yeah. What's more important, conviction or compromise?
Well, you have to have a conviction. You have to have a believe in something. The word compromise is problematic. I attended many, many hearings on trying to save areas. And they said, well, we'll compromise. We'll save 50%. We'll destroy 50%. I said, that's not a compromise.
Right.
To me, that's just destroying 50%. I don't call that a compromise. Just dividing it in half.
Double speak.
No, sometimes you can't compromise.
Yeah.
No, that whole area needs to be saved. I had my ex-mother-in-law was very responsible for saving the Tule elk. There were only 22 individuals left in the Owens Valley. She, on a teacher's salary, went back every year to Congress and got a law passed to save the Tule elk, create a Tule elk National Wildlife Refuge in Owens Valley. Now there are over 2,200 individual Tule elks, and they had to move them to Point Reyes and other locations because they can only handle so many in the Owens Valley. And I said to her, I said, well, I want to save a wildlife species. She says, how about Cyprinodon diopolis? I said, what's that? And that's the devil's hole pupfish. Well, I'm not a fisher. I'm a cat person. I love cats. But I was an activist. I said, okay, I'm going to create a petition. It turns out that the pupfish in Death Valley, they're separate springs. Each species is found only in individual wells. The devil's hole pupfish was 200, 300 individuals left of the entire species, and they're only found in one hole. And some rancher outside of the national park, or originally Death Valley was a national monument, was drawing the water. They only live on a ledge. If you drop the water from that ledge, the species becomes extinct. So we stopped the rancher from pulling the water. Now the pupfish, the hole, has a gate, metal gate, so people can't go and throw, destroy it,
Oh, wow.
But, I recommend to everybody, pick an animal, pick a plant,
Right.
and be the one to save it.
Good.
One of my first documentaries in the field was for Bayona wetlands. Unfortunately, we lost it to Playa del Vista, the Bayona wetlands, but we saved a little bit of it. Bolsa Chica, we saved a little bit of it, but we lost most of it. And we lost the first endangered species that was on the endangered species list that became extinct was the Palos Verde blue butterfly. We lost it.
Wow.
I don't care what animal it is. Pick one, pick a plant, and go save its habitat. Go save it. Get people to protect it. Everybody can become a true wildlife expert.
You are an inspiration.
Even if you have nothing that about
right.
of that species, like me.
Well, you're a true inspiration. So you've accomplished a lot, Nancy. How do you rate these three elements in your accomplishments overall? Luck, skill, and ambition. What played the biggest role, the second and the third?
Wow. Luck, skill, and ambition. All three have to play a role. Ambition, of course, as I've been talking about, is the motivation to care about the other life on the planet.
Yeah.
And that was instilled in me from day one when I went up to Idlewild, to the Idlewild School of Music and the Arts, now Idlewild Arts. When I was a child, went through their family camp program, from folk dancing to drama to dance to you name it. My parents built a cabin up in the mountains, and it's now on the National Register of Historic Places. If you want to see that, I forgot to give that website. Pearlmancabin.com, spelled PearlmanCabin.com.
Beautiful.
And you can see that.
I recommend.
And I have visit days. Write to me. All the information's there.
But how would you rate
going?
those,
What I'm saying is, going into nature is important. Everybody needs to go into nature. There's theories and books and studies about nature deprivation syndrome, and we all have to be out there. So I was motivated to preserve what made me happy and enjoyed the beauty of nature. Luck, you have to have luck to be successful.
Yeah. It
doesn't all come with the skill, and you have to have the skills to be able to do the work necessary to do what you want to do. So it's all a combination.
Yeah, it's a combination. They say the more you practice, the luckier you get. But a poet says that poetry is outing your inner dialogue. What language is your inner dialogue in?
Language?
Yeah.
I only speak English.
Well, I mean, it's more like, what form is your inner consciousness in?
Just feeling.
Feeling, yeah.
Feeling.
Two of my film heroes say, ignore yourself. There's no self-expression. Cecil Taylor, the great jazz pianist, says, I'm just a vehicle, and this stuff just comes through me. Is art making, more activism, all the things you're involved with, folk dancing, is it more self-expression or more your vehicle for whatever technologies, cultures, and environments are dominant?
I think everything we do, everything I've done is motivating me, is self-expression for me.
Yeah. Can art making be egoless?
I think you have to have an ego.
Yeah.
I see no problem with having an ego.
Yeah.
If I didn't have an ego, I wouldn't be out there.
Yeah.
I go out and public speak. I go out and perform. I go out and protest. I have an ego that says, I've got to be there. I've got to be doing it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Oh, I'm not. I don't want to insinuate there's something wrong with it.
Good.
No. It's just a question. Is perception reality?
Perception reality? Well, whatever we perceive is the reality now.
Yeah. Lewis Carroll says, I believe as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Have you believed in any impossible things lately?
Impossible that I want to do, impossible that the world
Yeah,
wants
you
to
put
do.
in the context you want. Yeah, either one or.
Well, the sad thing is, when I started my activism, I was an optimist.
Yeah.
Now, I started my activism particularly in high school and college, protesting the Vietnam War.
Yeah.
Peace activist.
Yeah.
I became an environmental activist. I became a feminist women's rights activist.
Yeah.
I became an activist for good causes. I still want peace. I still want the environment protected. I still want equal rights and equal recognition. And sad to say, I have become a pessimist.
Really? Where was the turnover, you think?
The turnover
Approximately.
was when we elected a horrible person in the White House.
Yeah. Wow.
I don't even want to say his name.
No, don't say his name. That's all right. So tell me, you do a lot, Nancy, and I really appreciate what you do. And
Thank you.
This has been amazing.
Thank you.
It's really enlightening talking to you, and it is inspiring.
I hope so.
I think you are more an optimist. You remind me of Marshall McLuhan so much, because they said, "Are you an optimist or a pessimist?" He says, "I'm an apocalypse." And then he now listen to this. He says, "We're fucked." He didn't say fuck, but he says we're in trouble. And you take the word apocalypse and you learn the etymology on it. It means to reveal. So basically, he was Toto in The Wizard of Oz, just pulling the curtain back and say, "See, I'm telling you, look." So I think you're doing a lot of that. You're pulling the curtain back and say, "Look at this," and act on it. Just don't. So, tell me one major element of your Nancy-ness, your activism, all your creativeness that stayed the same, and one major element that's changed. I mean, besides this going from optimist to pessimist, is there anything else you can highlight? A major element that stayed the same. And I mean, how you've been doing this for decades, something that stayed the same and something that's changed.
What has stayed the same is my recognizing the people before me.
Yes.
And most of my mentors, the people I worked with on many, many causes, have passed. Yeah. But yet they shared with me their expertise. They treated me as an equal. And having people that worked hard to do what I believe in really motivates me and motivated me.
Yeah.
And the reason I love still doing my radio show is meeting the new activists, the new people who are trying to inform the world of the problems and the solutions to the ecological crisis and other crises. And whether or not it's going and seeing documentaries as we have, being motivated by people who tell stories in that format, whether or not it's people writing novels or mostly nonfiction books, which I prefer to read.
Yeah.
Whether or not it's people who are out there still protesting and doing the activism. I honor those people and I like working with them. I like their motivation. Yeah. I like their commitment to try and make the world better.
That's the same. Now, what's one major element that's changed?
What's changed is how I spend the last quarter of my life.
Right.
And what do I do with it? I am processing all the material that I have collected from the 70 years plus of activism, trying to organize it, trying to find archives, trying to find places to keep the history, the legacy alive, because I think it's important that new people understand what's gone on in the past. And I've collected a heck of a lot of material over the years.
Well, you're smart having websites and YouTube channels, because that's how they're going to learn it. Because I'm involved in this whole archive thing. And what it does is it goes into a college archive, which a lot of my interviews are, and then no one has access to them, and they're treated too relevant. I said, put it on YouTube for free. Let people have access to it.
Well, the problem I have is with over 3,000 plus video and audio tapes, I don't have the money to digitize them.
Right.
And they need to be digitized. The Library of Congress has a selected few.
Yeah.
Where they don't collect every show imaginable, but mine was this unique collection. And I periodically get calls from people. Can we use a clip from this? Can we use a clip from that? And so what I am doing now, I'm still trying to work on current issues. In fact, I just signed about 15 petitions today on different ecological issues to get the EPA to do this and do that, and to get this agency and Bureau of Emissions to do that. Not that they will with our current administration, but we still try and let them know what should be done. And I'm still writing those letters. I'm still doing those actions.
Don't waste your time.
You can't
digitize
do it.
And you want to be present.
But you have. But now I'm looking at how to preserve the history. I'm doing both, and so. Now I'm working very hard in maybe instead of doing so many documentaries, writing my memoir, because this program is only a brief period of my time, but I've got a lot of other stories that I haven't been able to share with you.
Well, here's the next
Let's see. I wish I could share some more stories with you.
And you can go wherever you want with the questions and share them. But here's the next one. Moshe Feldenkrais works with healing and movement. He says it's literally possible to identify a weakness and incorporate it to become a strength. Tell me a weakness you turned into a strength.
A weakness turned into a strength. Lacking time and trying to maximize your use of the time as best as possible.
Time management. Fill in the blank. Anger can be a productive emotion when
it motivates you to take action.
Yeah. What's the most significant difference between men and women, physical aside? I'm glad you're laughing. We're here to have fun too.
Well, we do know there's a physical difference.
But physical aside, what's the most significant difference? How would you articulate that?
Well, people claim that women have responses differently, have different kind of emotional responses. I think we all have a little bit of male and female in us in terms of how we react to things. Men can be feminists, believe in women's rights and male equality and female equality. Just doesn't have to be just a woman. I think we have been raised differently. That's been changing.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll never forget in 8th grade when I wanted to take a mechanics class like the boys did, because I said, I'm going to be driving a car. I want to know how it works in case it shut down. They wouldn't let me. I had to take sewing and cooking. I hate sewing. I hate cooking.
Oh my, that is sad.
And so, you know, a change now is, I'm sure if I were in 8th grade now, I could.
Yeah.
But that's because we have fought for decades to equalize the training. So men and women can engage equally, but being recognized. I'll never forget one of the first years that I was on this political body, Board of Trustees. And when I spoke, they always said, Nancy, you're speaking too long. Well, I took out my stopwatch because I do radio, and I took my stopwatch and I timed all the other trustees speaking, and I timed my speaking. They spoke longer than I did. But what they were basically saying is, Nancy, you're a female and we don't care about you. We don't want to hear what you say. So they said, you're talking too long. And I wasn't.
Did you give them the statistics?
Yes.
And they still?
Yeah, they disrespected me.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what?
You have to bring it up.
Yeah.
You have to fight it with
Yeah.
the tools that we have
Yeah.
available. I had my stopwatch. I
Yeah.
proved them wrong,
Way to go.
but it's a shame that you have
Oh, it's
to
total shame.
deal
Yeah.
with that.
What caused matriarchy?
Matriarchy was something that was very much appreciated in early cultures. Women had equal rights in societies and cultures.
What caused it?
Everybody realized that the women had the power of birth and giving babies.
That's my favorite answer. It's just that. Peter Sellers, the opera theater director, he says, a mother holding a baby, giving birth. Yeah, go ahead.
You don't have to be a mother. I don't have children on purpose because I believed in overpopulation. There are plenty of kids on the planet that I'm taking care of. I don't have to have my DNA to take care of them and to care about them.
You are smart.
And I remember there was an organization just very briefly for a few years called the National Organization for Non-Parents. Because
non-parents?
Yes, because there was so much pressure from parents, grandparents. When are you going to have a child? When are you going to have a child? And I have good DNA. I probably should have passed it on.
Yeah.
But there's some good DNA out there. And I think it's important that we recognize that women's role is not just motherhood.
No. It's multiple. And my favorite answer kind of is, what's the most significant difference between men and women? And people go, there is none. Now we know there is, because the cliche is women are emotional and men are linear, but it's not necessarily true because we're all human beings, but we are raised culturally different. And so there's a lot of complexity. You covered it well. How do you
physically?
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
Sadly, men have traditionally been a little bit ahead of us physically in terms of certain events like the marathon.
Yeah.
Women are breaking that.
Yeah.
Women are nearing the men. And I've been in some long distance races where women have beat the men.
Good.
And when I was training with a world-class track club, Santa Monica Track Club, I trained with Olympic gold medalists, four-time Olympian. I trained with the best because if you want to be good, I learned this in dancing. Dancers always took their ballet class. They always trained with the best. If you want to be good, you train with the best.
Yeah.
So I ran with the men, and they could not stand the fact that I would be a foot in front of them. So they pushed me because they wanted to be in front of me.
Yeah.
But then race time came, and what happened? I could care less about them. I looked at my female competitor and I passed them, and they could never figure out why.
Yeah.
If they'd asked me, I would have told them, because you won't let me push in training, but I push in a race.
Wow. Utah Phillips says, anarchy is making rules for yourself and not other people. Who's entitled to make the rules?
We all have to make rules.
Yeah.
We all have to have rules. We can't live without rules. We can't live without procedures.
Yeah.
We can't live without our ethical, moral upbringing telling us what's right, what's wrong. We have to have rules.
It's funny because what Utah said is exactly when you take the etymological breakdown of the word freedom, it means making one's rules for one's own self. What does freedom mean to you now?
Freedom means the right to speak up.
Yeah.
I am appalled by what's happening in this country, by people who are saying the truth and being punished for it.
Yeah.
That is horrible. Other countries, you're afraid to speak up, period.
Yeah.
And freedom is the right to do what you want, say what you want without being punished. But what we do and what we say also has to be respectful.
Yeah.
And be consistent with positive values.
I agree with
We
you.
can't be swearing at each other.
No.
It's the old story, don't yell fire in the theater.
Yeah.
So there's a limit to freedom. What is freedom? What is rights? And I'm proud that one of my ancestors wrote one of the most important documents in the country, the Declaration of Independence, Thomas
Nice.
Jefferson.
Nice.
And, the comments that he made in those first paragraphs, I still believe in.
What's the difference between rights and responsibilities?
Well, we all have to take responsibility for what we do. We have rights. What right we have depends on where you live. Sad to say, Eleanor Roosevelt doesn't get the proper credit that she should, because they didn't respect her as a woman, but they put her on the United Nations committee to write the International Human Rights statement in the 40s after World War II. And it's still in effect,
Nice.
but we are not following it.
Not follow that.
Human rights are being ignored all of it. I have brought up for decades, I've had other radio shows, Environmental Viewpoint, Planet Health, Feminist Magazine Radio, and I brought up the fact that in today, it's appalling. In a country like Afghanistan, women are slaves. Let's put it where it is. It's not religion. It's men controlling women. If you're not allowed to go to school, you're not allowed to have health care, you're not allowed to walk out of your house and do normal activities like buy groceries, you're not allowed to do anything if you're not totally covered up. That's slavery, when you're being totally 100% controlled. And why isn't this world outraged about it? And why isn't this world doing something about those poor women who can't get out of that situation? They are stuck. We have to label things the way they are. They do not have any human rights. And there are other places like that. You've got the conflicts in the Congo going on. You have 1 million plus refugees in the Sudan. Where's our news covering all these things going on? They're not. They're focusing very little on what's happening so many places in the world, even in this own country. And we absolutely have to change our viewpoints, our coverage. We have to demand that the media, which now is terrible because we have somebody who calls real truth media fake, which is not. We have a real problem getting information out there and fighting for what is.
You've been, I think one of the solutions or a movement towards it is being an educator, because of all the things you are, you list educator as one of the first. And this is McLuhan in 57. It's misleading to suppose there's any basic difference between education and entertainment. It's like setting up a distinction between didactic and lyric poetry on the ground that one teaches and the other pleases. However, it's always been true, whatever pleases teaches more effectively. So there's a lot packed in there. Just what's the difference between entertainment and information? And do you
education and entertainment?
But just the last part is, whatever pleases teaches more effectively. Your thoughts on that as well?
I've tried teaching junior high. I wasn't real great because I spent more time disciplining in class than in teaching. At this point, I tried teaching high school. I tried teaching university. You find your niche. I was best at the community college level, where I could really teach the subject matter. And the students generally paid attention before cell phones became popular. And then when cell phones became popular, you'd have half the class looking at their cell phone. Well, I said that that's the case, I'm going to engage them. I would bring up a subject and say, okay, look up on your cell phone, look at the penis sheaths of the New Guinea population. And then they would take a look at it and see that. And whoa, they kind of were paying attention. So you have to get, and I started every class, or tried to start every class, with a joke. Unfortunately, you have to entertain the young people because that's what they're used to. You have to engage them before you can give them some real facts and figures. But I also demanded that they read and that the class was a discussion. I was lousy. I quit doing online because I wanted the interaction. And I feel that you have to be willing to absorb information. sadly, a lot of young people are not ready to absorb real information, and you have to have facts. I remember teaching a history class where they said, well, why do we have to learn that year for that whatever? Well, because that's significant. Without the facts, how can you talk about the concept?
Yeah.
You have to have both, and you have to have interesting history. I mean, I am with an ethnic folk dance company. We perform all over Southern California, but I had the opportunity twice to go to Estonia, which is in a Baltic country next to Russia, Lithuania, Latvia, that whole area. And I danced with the same folk dance with 8,000 dancers in a soccer field. And it's a UNESCO Song and Dance Festival. And this festival started when Estonia was controlled by the Russians, before they got their freedom from the Russians, because they weren't allowed to have political protests. Well, the Russians didn't know Estonian, so they said, well, we'll have song and dance, traditional song and dance in Estonia, in Estonian. And that's what they did. And the festival continues. So it's interesting how entertainment can also be used politically. And it brings half the country. 1.5 million people came to the capital city of Tallinn to watch this festival. Like our Hollywood Bowl is like a little miniature nothing. They built a big bowl where they had 40,000 singers from every choir in the country singing for 45 hours. We danced for 2 hours. They had children's dances, teen dances, adults, everybody danced together. And that's just an example of an experience of combining entertainment, education, knowledge.
You're good at it. Okay, so how do you find peace of mind?
Peace of mind goes back to what I started with, being outdoors in nature and enjoying the other species on the planet, and enjoying people who are kind, enjoying people who are doing meaningful work, people who care, people who believe in the goodness, who believe in protecting our earth, people who will accept me for my beliefs, my actions, even though they might believe something else, where we can still have a camaraderie and an appreciation.
You're such community oriented. I really appreciate this. These are 5 quick Alan Watts questions off the top of your head.
And you want them quick.
No, in just a couple words. 1, who started it all?
Started what is it?
Again, you answered a question with a question. You win. 2, are we going to make it?
I am beginning to think that human species might not make it. The earth will continue and the cockroaches may take over.
3, where do we put it?
Put what?
4, who's cleaning it up?
Only we can clean up the mess that we've created.
5, is it serious?
We are serious as all get out.
Beautiful. Okay, if you were walking down the street today and you met yourself as a 12-year-old, what would you say to your 12-year-old self?
Be out there, enjoy life, do the best you can, be the best you can, care about the planet.
Beautiful. Which way should toilet paper come off the way? Over or under?
Whichever works for you.
Nice. If a publisher was going to release your autobiography off the top of your head, what would the title be?
Oh, I already have the title.
You want to tell us?
Second chance. Second place.
Nice. They want to scent the glue in the binding of your autobiography. What smell?
Well, when I had a horse for 13 years, I had a choice when he died. You could go to the chicken feed factory or the glue factory. So I guess like my horse, the glue factory.
Yeah. If a statue was built in your honor, where would you want it displayed and what would it be made of?
Statue in my honor should be made out of the earth, clay.
Nice.
And it should be in the mountains that I love and enjoy and trying to protect. And I just had an experience of my life.
What?
I'm a cat lover. I did a documentary about mountain lions decades ago. The scientists had only seen mountain lions for 7 times in 7 years. They radio collared them and followed them by radio call. I hike in the mountains of San Jacinto Mountains in Idaho, and I always wanted to see a wild mountain lion. I know the mountain lion sees me, but I never had it. This last year, I opened my door of my cabin. Right above my steps is a mountain lion. And we looked at each other, we smiled at each other, and it moved on.
Oh my God.
I had the experience of my life.
That's like the green dot when the sun's setting. Have you ever seen the green dot when it hits the ocean? The sun. It's very rare,
Yeah.
and you can see it.
This was an extremely
that is
rare
beautiful. I love
occasion.
it. Tell me something good you never had, but you never want.
Nobody's asked me that question. Something good.
It's good. You never had it,
I
but
never
you never
had
want
it. But I don't want it?
Yeah.
Well, if it's good and I never had it, I have no idea.
Okay.
What are some of the answers you've been given?
Oh, well, kids, expensive funeral.
I don't want a funeral. I want my body to be cut up and go to medical science
There you go.
because I want to be useful.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that. What's the cultural shift you see developing today that inspires you?
A cultural shift that inspires me? I see a cultural shift that doesn't inspire
I get
me.
that answer too much now, but is there any cultural shift that does inspire you?
Culturally, I just wish that we would all see ourselves as human beings.
Yeah.
There is no one American or one this or that, wherever you're from.
Yeah.
Our culture is what we're living now. Our culture is based on some of our history, our heritage. We have parents, grandparents with certain cultural traditions, food, customs, whatever. But we're all here, so our cultural tradition is the same. When I travel around the world, I can tell immediately when somebody's an American.
Yeah.
When I'm sitting in or somebody's from Europe or somebody's from Asia. It doesn't matter what they look like in terms of facial features. It's how they act, how they behave. That's a cultural aspect. And I think that we need to get back to some basic courtesies, some basic etiquette, to some basic decency to each other. We've lost a little bit of that.
It's called kindness.
Kindness and
empathy.
As somebody who's been involved in the political scene, because I've been commenting on administrative policies, on legislation my entire life, we need to recognize that this country is not one party.
Yeah.
We need to recognize that we have multiple beliefs and we need to work together.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, we have an administration who puts down anybody who doesn't believe the way he does.
Yeah.
That is terrible.
Yeah.
And that is not a good American cultural tradition.
Yeah.
Our cultural tradition is to respect people of many beliefs.
Diversity,
Diversity. We have to accept diversity. We have to have equality. We have to have inclusion. And we can't be copying out. I'm appalled by universities and companies that have caved in, whether or not it's the media, the college, you can't cave in to somebody saying, forget treating these people right or giving these people try. I mean, I got my start on radio doing a program because they didn't have enough female voices. They didn't want to I didn't want to be a DJ, so they put us in the public affairs, but that's fine.
Yeah.
But once we have equality and affirmative action, we don't have to look at that. I always remember as a feminist, there was a orchestra once, I forget which one, and they had blind auditions for their orchestra. Violinists, pianists.
You couldn't see if it was a man or a woman.
Exactly.
Nice.
And so they ended up with more females in their orchestra than any other orchestra. because they based it on the sound as opposed to the sound related to the physical body.
That is good.
And that's the kind of situation where we need to get to the point where when you see the physical body, it doesn't matter. You're listening to the sound.
Yeah.
But we're not there yet.
Yeah. It's a great concept. I love that. Okay, so we got a few more and we're out of here. This has really been fun. Tell me.
It has been. I didn't expect all these questions.
Tell me a question that remains unresolved for you.
A question that's unresolved is, why don't people care for the real problem on our planet?
Yeah.
They're afraid to speak about overpopulation because they don't want to be called racist. It's not a matter of immigration. It's not a matter of where you're from. It's a worldwide issue. I wish we didn't have borders for countries. We should be able to all be working together. We're on one planet. Question I have is, why can't people recognize that we are destroying the life force? We're destroying the circle of life that supports us. We're over exploiting the resources. We are destroying the land, the water, the air. And my question is, why can't people see it and do something?
Well, that's a no-brainer. It's like you want to live. Okay, how has being an activist shaped your behavior?
Being an activist allows me to speak up.
Yeah.
And I have to be willing to be attacked, which I have been many times, because people don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to support some of the causes and issues that I believe in.
Yeah.
And it's shaped me to be stronger.
Nice.
To go ahead and live by my principles, do what I think is right, and to find the people who are in sync with me and support me.
Billy Wilder said, or not Billy, I'm sorry, Thornton Wilder in 1928 said, "Art is confession. Art is the secret told. But art is not only the desire to tell one's secret, it's the desire to tell it and hide it at the same time. You've laid your cards on the table for 90 minutes. I'm not insinuating you haven't already answered this. What's it really all about for you?"
What's what? Define it again.
You put in the context you want.
Say the question again.
What's it really all about for you? Just,
What's it all about for me?
Yeah.
Is to live a life, try to be happy.
Yeah.
Try to survive. I was not a 5 to 9er.
Yeah.
I was always part-time this, part-time that, to try and make it work. What's more important? Doing good work, meeting good people.
There you go.
It's not the money.
Yeah.
We need the money to survive, but working together and enjoying life at the same time while we're trying to do what we believe is necessary. I believe in education. That's why I taught. I believe in policy making and getting the right decisions. That's why I run for office. I believe in the enjoyment of cultural traditions. That's why I do ethnic dances. I believe in working together with people like you, doing this to share our concerns, explore our thoughts, explore what's going on. That's a challenge, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Really good.
So it's really a combination of all of it to have a happy life. I mean, we're only here for so long.
Yeah,
and
you're comprehensive.
Try and make it good. And that's why I keep on jogging every day. I mean, 77, I'm still running 2-3 miles a day.
That is beautiful. It reminds me of Frank Zappa teaching me, don't stop and keep going.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, what gives you the most optimism?
Gives me the most optimism is when I hear of a success, when I hear that we've saved someplace, we've saved an animal, we've saved a unique location ecosystem, where we've stopped polluting something, where we have gotten young people to commit to environmental protection and doing the right thing, where we've helped in areas around the world that need the help. whether or not it's to try and stop wars, whether or not it's trying to stop destruction of their ecosystems, whether or not it's trying to give them a better life.
Yeah.
I find that we have to work together and be optimistic, or we may as well quit.
Yeah,
I can't quit.
The first question I ask is, what's the best thing for a human being? Wilhelm Reich said the best thing for a human being is another human being. The last question, what gives you the most optimism?
Well, maybe my kitty cat. Kitty cat's always there.
There you go. And the last question is, what gives you the most optimism, is what they asked Groucho Marx at the end of his life, and he said other people. So it's sure been fun spending this time with another person, especially because of you, Nancy. Thank you. This has been so enlightening.
It's been fun.
Whoa! And I'm gonna
now you see more of your house.
Yeah, and now I'm gonna sneak around here and say goodbye to the Global Theater. Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
And I'm gonna hit this one, and then I'm gonna hit this one.